Hey everybody, it's Galmadex and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we've got another pre-recorded video. We're playing a quick draft of Murders at Karlov Manor while I am out on vacation. So as we're touring the multiverse here, doing a couple drafts of a ton of different sets, it's time to do a little bit of MKM, the first set of 2024. Pretty interesting format. It's got the disguise mechanic, which is the return of Morph, where you spend 3 mana, play your card face down as a 2/2, and then turn it up later for that disguise cost. And Aurelia's Vindicator is probably the strongest card with that disguise mechanic. It's one of the strongest cards in the whole sets, and I'm really happy to start off our pack one, pick one, showing off some of that disguise shenanigans here. So we'll start with Aurelia's Vindicator and see what we get for pick number 2. Pick 2, off of the Aurelia's Vindicator, we've got a pretty easy makeshift binding pick. This is a relatively aggressive draft format. Certainly if you've played Aether Drift and Tarkir Dragonstorm lately, way more aggressive than those sets where you do want to curve out. You really don't want to go above a 2-color deck particularly often. You don't want to do a bunch of splashing, so I would prefer not to take Gear Drake and try to go blue, red, and white all together, but Gear Drake is the strongest card in the pack, I think. The blue-red Investigate deck that makes a bunch of clue tokens can use this card really, really well. But that said, again, because this is not a good 3-color format, and we have such a powerful white mythic, I'm just going to take another really strong white spell and grab the good removal spell here, because I think there's basically no scenario where we don't end up playing the Vindicator. So stick to the white for it with makeshift binding. This mythic is fun, it's cool, but it is far too slow for this format. Pick 3, now we're down to mostly fillery stuff. We'll just take the on-color card of the Granite Witness. Solid to have a flying vigilant threat. You can flip it off the disguise even in mono white. So this doesn't necessarily tie us to blue-white, but I do like the blue-white archetype in the format. It's a kind of detectives deck, which we've got one detective towards it right now. It could be pretty fun if we can get there, so we'll take Granite Witness. Yeah, Inheritance is not a good rare. Pick 4, Museum Night Watch plays pretty well. Being able to trade off into some other creature and leave behind a creature of your own is a good deal in a format that has, or is so focused on on-board combat. It's all about getting creatures on the board and jamming into each other. So I like Museum Night Watch here, but Out Cold is also pretty decent if I were a little deeper into the blue here. Pick 5, the Deduce and the Crime Stopper Sprite are both very reasonable blue spells. If we get cards that care about clue tokens and can sack them for good value, Deduce is going to be better, but if we want to just be a really aggressive, like tempo aggro detectives deck, Crime Stopper Sprite will likely be a little better. I'm going to go for the Crime Stopper Sprite. Pick 6, I will speculate on a Coerced to Kill. Prefer not to end up splashing anything unless we get really, really good fixing, which is not usually going to be the case in this set, but we're speculating over a pretty mediocre card. Agency Outfitter is just way too much mana, way too slow for this format. Magnifying Glass and Thinking Cap are both very mediocre by themselves, so you have to have this to make those cards good, and then this is a 6 mana 4/3. That's just a little better with those cards. I'd rather just take Coerce to Kill speculatively. Pick 7, there's not even a good speculative pick here because none of these cards are going to be exciting in anything that we end up playing. I guess the Chase is On's okay as a Boros combat trick. Pick number 8, Fairy Snoop is a detective. We can flip up for double blue, so that's reasonable. That said, we're definitely taking a hit in power level over just taking the gigantic Glint Weaver here, just in case we get pushed towards green, so I guess I'll take the big beef there. Yeah, and then Crocodile. Also playable, even if you're just green. If we go white-green, just flip it up with a disguise. Pretty filler, but so is kind of everything we're getting at this point. Okay, pick 10 Deduce is not that filler. That's pretty solid card draw. Pick 11, nothing. Pick 12, Out Cold. It's also pretty good. Really, really nice for tempo-oriented aggro decks where you stun 2 of your opponent's creatures, get them out of the way as blockers for multiple turns in a row. Plus you get your card back out of this later with that clue token. Very, very nice. All right, it looks like we're in a great spot to try to be blue-white detectives because we opened up a sick uncommon for that deck, which is Perimeter Enforcer. So every detective that we play or that we flip up gives this +1/+1 till end of turn. So kind of plays like a 2-mana 2/2 flying lifelink, which is an absurdly good deal if you can get the trigger each turn. So really pays off for the times where you don't. It's just the 1/1. Perimeter Enforcer is spectacular. So is Novice Inspector. Excellent, excellent value common. I think these are the two best cards in this pack by a lot, and they're both on color for our blue-white detectives build, which is nice. Pack 2, pick number 2 on the job is a solid finisher in this format. Buff your entire board and get a clue token for later. Detective Satchel would be really sweet if we did go for the blue-red artifact deck with the Drake there. But I'm going to take the on the job. Pick number 3. The Cold Case Cracker is a perfectly fine detective. Flyer at 4 mana, replaces itself when it dies. Unauthorized Exit, also perfectly fine bounce spell. I'll go for the Cracker though. Pick number 4, another one. Yeah, keep jumping in the sky here. Some pretty solid green spells if we went green-white, keep showing up now. Forensic Researcher's pretty reasonable, pick 5. Untaps your mana when you need to ramp, and untaps your creatures to give stuff like Pseudo-Vigilance. We really need a lot more 2-mana creatures here. That is where this format gets a little awkward because there's so many disguise cards and stuff. You get really clumped up at 3 mana. The 2 mana or less creatures are at an absolute premium, though. So I could play a 2 mana 2/1 with no abilities, I guess. It's a more relevant draw in the late game because you get to make it really big at least. Another Out Cold or a Furtive Courier as well. Draw a card, discard a card every time you attack is decent. But 3/2 is a really bad stat line because there's so many 3 mana 2/2s. So you really want to be able to be sacking an artifact for this like every turn, which means sacking a clue token, which we've got a couple, but not a million. Honestly, I think I'd rather just take another Out Gold with the amount of 3 mana plays I have. Ooh, No More Lies, super efficient counterspell. Come on in. Jaded Analyst, very filler, but it is a 2 mana play and I need those badly. And we have some amount of clue tokens to sacrifice for this card. Pick 9. Case of the Filched Falcon can be fun. It's pretty good in blue-red, I think basically unplayable otherwise. You have to have 3 or more artifacts on board, so you need a million clue tokens. Yeah, we don't have enough of that. I mean, I've got 1 Granite Witness as well that helps it. But if we don't solve it, it's just not good. And yeah, we're not going to solve it that often. So I'd rather take like Investigators for the very top of the curve, or Eliminate the Impossible for a little combat trick. I think I'm going for the Investigators at the top of the curve. Pick 10, Criminologists, filler 5-drop. Pick 11, we'll grab a cheaper bounce spell with unauthorized exits. And our final pack here, pack number 3, just really take 2 mana creatures and removal spells super highly. I think that's all we really need at this point. All right, pack 3, pick 1. There's a beautiful 1 mana creature, Novice Inspector. As you can see, very, very little fixing in this format. We have our 1 Case of the Shattered Pact if we want to try to draft Aurelia and splash her in. It's just not really a thing. I'm just gonna stick to our pure blue-white deck and take the excellent Novice Inspector. A little sad to pass up on Aurelia, but it is what it is. Pack 3, pick number 2. Karlov Watchdog is really great. Buffing your whole board later. Not on my watch is solid removal. Those are the best 2 cards by a lot pretty easily. Grab a Watchdog here. Alright, here's another good removal spell. Case of the Gateway Express. Deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to a creature you don't, which isn't the greatest without a bunch of cheap creatures, but the fact that you get the added bonus of also solving this later and buffing your whole board is really nice. So I'm going to take the Case of the Gateway Express there. What is it? What is happening? By the way. This must be on some kind of bonus sheet of like criminals or something? This doesn't make any sense. There's no way what is happening? I've got to go do some Googling. Oh, right. This is when they had the list of like relatively random reprints you could get in Play Boosters still. That's so confusing. All right, I'm just going to take the Gateway Express. No cheap creature, sadly. Here's a cold case cracker. Flotsam Jetsam is cute just to get a huge amount of evidence in your graveyard nice and early for the cards that want to exile 6 mana value worth of cards from your grave. That's collect evidence 6. You can do that off a single Flotsam Jetsam, but cold case cracker it is. There we go. Market Watch Phantom is a great 2-drop, although Inspector is really nice for the Detectives deck. I need the 2 mana creatures. Pick number 6, say 2 mana mediocre removal spell. Just gives me something early to do. Fine with that. Actually, Dramatic Accusation's better removal, but it's a little slower. This can also be used as a combat trick since we have a lot of creatures. I think I like the Burden of Proof. A lot of detective creatures, I meant to say. Alright, filler 2-drop Bubble Smuggler. And we've got the kind of curve you need in this format now. Do a little bit of rare drafting for Vault Progress. Reasonable Doubt is a fine counterspell. I'm not going to play multiple Criminologists. I don't even think I'm going to play the first one. Probably not playing Flotsam Jetsam. 2 cuts and run a 16 land build. What do we got here for the cuts? Creature count 16. I got a creature. What's the worst creature in the deck? Probably Crocodile. I mean, probably Bubble Smuggler or Jaded Analyst, but I can't really cut a 2 mana play. Let's cut a Crocodile, cut a land, cut 1 spell. A little bit of a lower creature count here, and we don't have any token production, which is part of what makes On the Job so strong. 15 creatures and no token production. I'm going to cut the On the Job here. 16 blue cards, 10 white. I still kind of want to do an 8-8 split because I need the white mana early. I don't have any double blue as well, which is nice. Yeah, we can go 8-8 split on it, call it a deck here, and hop into gameplay. Alright, here we are for game number 1 on the draw against a red deck. You want to see a format where it's terrifying to be on the draw. It is Murders at Karlov Manor when your opponent's got Boros lands. Innocent Bystander starts it off. Likely to deduce here. Since that's only got 1 toughness, our Case the Gateway Express is going to work really well this game. Turn 3 plays Crime Novelist. Alright, 1 power creature on turn 3. I don't mind that. Gets some good value when they're cracking clue tokens, but for now, not much damage or anything. Drop our blocker. Land draw would be great, specifically a Plains, then I could flip up our card and play the Case of the Gateway Express. We have a good death trigger on this card, so I'm not going to put it at risk of a combat trick until it's flipped up. I'll take 1 extra damage here to keep it safe from a combat trick for the turn. Another Crime Novelist. Well, they get some artifacts down. It's going to be bad for me. Perfect draw. We found a Plains. Pass, block, and flip this up. Harried Dronesmith. They get a 1/1. Oh, God. Burden of Proof doesn't get rid of any of its abilities. Okay, so the problem here is that they get to sack an artifact every turn now to make both the novelists bigger every single turn. I need to makeshift binding that then. Okay, luckily I do get to kill one novelist. Don't even have to cast a spell to do it. Oof, Novice Inspector's a great draw. I can double block that novelist. I think that's where I'm at. We got a couple clue tokens already. Definitely locked in for great late game value. Another card getting bigger every time they sack an artifact. Sure. Yeah, this is it's been a really slow curve out for the Boros deck, which is nice for me. Tap stun each of them. They don't untap next turn. I get 4 damage in here. I think I wait to out cold till I have 3 creatures on board to trigger Case of the Gateway Express, but then we go really hard with out cold. Okay, Lightning Helix is fine. Still up a card with that clue token. If we live for the long game, we are way, way ahead in cards. So now I might have to just double block those since they did have removal here to buy time. Rather than going to 11. And even if they have a removal spell or combat trick, these are pretty small creatures. I still have an out cold. I have a million pieces of card draw. I think we're fine to that as well. They do have a combat trick, but it's just going to give them a detective back. That's it. Which is very fine. Okay. 3/3 to block the 2/2 and draw a card here. I also have the +2/+2 combat trick. If that's relevant. Alright, land off the top. Time to get that long game value going. We're sacking a clue like every turn now. Ooh, that is nasty. Not quite attacking with 3 creatures yet, but this is still good. Tap and stun the novelist to attack with the other 2. If they block my detective with their detective, I'll make mine a 4/4. If they don't block, cool, I dealt 5. This counterspell I don't think matters. Well, it does stay relevant. If you suspect the creature... I really don't love the mechanics in this format. They're just a bunch of pretty specific names and stuff. If you suspect the creature, you shut it off from blocking and give it Menace. So I could suspect one of their creatures just to lower the number of blockers they have. Even if this doesn't end up countering anything. Alright, eat their 2/2, tap their whole board, send in with 3 creatures to trigger the case. And out cold is uncounterable, which gets around the ward. Big damage. And even bigger damage next turn. And they've all got +1/+0. Shady Informant, just a 4/2. Alright, they're playing off the top. If they don't hit anything, they're super dead. We have 12 damage on board against our opponent at 9 life. Even if they cast a blocker here, if I draw another non-land card, I can counter my own spell to suspect their blocker and make it unable to block. So they do play an orangutan. I've got 9 damage in the sky, but that don't matter. Because it's got reach. So I will need to try to counter my own spell to suspect that to get guaranteed lethal. Otherwise they block there, take 7. Oh, or I could just draw a bounce spell. I don't even have to do the fancy play. Alright, lethal. And we are 1-0 heading into game 2. Alright, here we are on the play for game 2. Chill until turn 3. But that's not as painful when you're on the play. Those are pretty cool sleeves. Snarling Gorehound, turn 1. 1 menace there. Hey, we drew the strongest card in our deck. Got a Vindicator coming up. I'm going to play that as one of the latest creatures that we play against black-red, where they can have tons of cheap removal to clear out our face downs and other stuff like that. A knife! No. I'm going to put it on a Gorehound, get damage in, sure. I'll lead with the Researcher. If they don't kill it, then it is our best way to start playing multiple spells each turn. And if they do kill it, that's a removal spell out of the way for Aurelia's Vindicator. There's their own face down. Take 1. Market Watch Phantom is the draw. Kill the Gorehound, play the Phantom. Equip the knife to get past our 2/2, down to 15. So Leering Onlooker. Two flyer blocks that if they don't move the knife around. We really want to flip the Vindicator up later. I think this is tap the Onlooker, poke for 2. Set up for a 3 creature attack in the future, maybe. Basically just disregard the Vindicator, play the best plays we have without it here. Down to 12. Cast another face down. Yep. That ward is painful. Out cold helps against that. Now we can drop Vindicator and have unauthorized exit up. Bounce that while they're tapped out. Well, the Rakdos, they're not going to have a way to protect it. try to bounce the knife, but then they sack the knife and draw a card. Then I trade into Moroi. Get them to sink their mana into flipping this to beat the Phantom. And then, ooh, okay. Might exit the Basher. So the Basher is dealing 4 to me and killing Phantom versus just dealing 5 to me. Yeah, we bounce the Basher then. Mill that, looking for a land. Perfect. So the Vindicator gets to exile X cards, and once the Vindicator dies, they don't even get them back to the board, they get them back to their hand. Which is absurd. Basher's back. This is mega lethal as far as I am aware. Yeah, they just concede. It was already lethal on board because they block the 3-2 on the ground and take 10 from everybody else. Or the Researcher could just tap it too. Jeez. Alright, huge stuff from one of the best mythics in the set. We are 2-0 now, heading to Game 3. Game 3. Hey, there it is again. I need to draw a lot of lands here to get towards using that, but I kind of have to keep as one of the strongest cards in the whole set. Rubble Belt Maverick starts our opponent off. There's a nice Golgari Graveyard Shenanigan deck that can get a lot of value off this card because you Surveil to, then once this is in your grave, it's a card that you can remove from your grave to work with cards like Insidious Roots that give you like a plant every time something leaves your grave. Green, red. Another Maverick, yep. Alright, if we miss the land drop here, this is the really pivotal turn. Because this land lets us get to a Researcher and a face-down Vindicator, and if Researcher stays on the board, then that gets us to all of our 4 mana plays. Alright, not the worst way to miss ever. At least we hit a 2 mana spell. It's also pretty good with Burden of Proof. They don't have the cheap removal here. Okay. Still definitely rather play the Researcher than the Burden of Proof, though. Gain a little bit of life back. Blowing up the Researcher, fair enough. Take 6. Oh yeah. See, that's how aggro this set is. The green rules will +2/+0 plus bite the creature, instead of just bite the creature like in Tarkir. I think I need lands bad enough to just crack this and hope. Let's go. That land's a huge one. The out cold can buy us a lot of time. Discard a card, draw 2. How do they solve this? If they have no cards in hand. So once they empty their hand, they get to draw an extra 2 cards every turn. That is bad. Scapegoat, a little unblockable 1/1. Yeah, you got me for 3. Large creature in the sky, gain a couple life again. I don't think I'm quite at the point I can just out-cold a 2/2 and a 1/1. I have to wait for their bigger threats, like if they flip the face down or something. Okay, so they can suspect a future creature they play too, to give that future creature menace. This could be like the 6/7 or something. That would not be great for me, but then I've got the out cold target. Just take 2. They cycle a Tusker for mana. That's a pretty sick card from the list. I don't know how I totally forgot that. That's like really cool. I like that added element to it. You just get the original versions of a bunch of other cards. It's pretty fun. Mana, where you at? This lifelink has gone such a long way here. If I had double blue, I would be interested in exit plus burden, but I don't have double blue, so I can only cast one spell. I have to pick one single spell to cast here. I think it's just gotta be the Cold Case Cracker. Trying to race with our flying damage. Do some chumps next turn. If they have no removal, if I leave all the flyers around, I have lethal with Burden of Proof in the sky. And one chump block just with the Novice Inspector should be enough to guaranteed not die on this swing. Tap out? Buff the whole board, give it all trample? Is that lethal? Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 79? Yeah! Oh my god, that was close. Alright. That is 3-0. Undefeated all the way to at least a 50-50 run here. At least an average run. And our other face down was Vengeful Creeper. I forgot about that card. That was a pretty nice one. Flips up into a large card that blows up an artifact or enchantment. There's plenty of those. There's all the cases for enchantments. And some artifact creatures and clue tokens and stuff for artifacts. Cool. 3-0 heading into game 4. Didn't even need to cast Aurelia's Vindicator. Here we are on the play for game number 4. Sit behind an analyst and chill. Literally. Blue-white mirror match. Their turn to play is Market Watch Phantom. So these can trade into each other if they don't give this flying. But this usually has flying. Plenty of power 2 or less creatures. Neighborhood Guardian. Okay, that's a particularly good one. I am more than willing to counter that. One of the better uncommons in the entire set. Every power 2 or less creature comes with a +1/+1 trigger till end of turn. And there's token production with like dog walkers and stuff that are really good. Alright. I'm not out colding just a 2/2, so get the flyer down and pass. Crime Stopper Sprite, just a 2/2 flyer. Pretty mediocre against our 3/3 flyer. Down to 18. Perimeter Enforcer. I don't mind that at all. Karlov Watchdog. They attack with 3 or more creatures, they buff the whole board, and we can't flip stuff during their turn. Pretty happy to just bounce that and force the recast. 4 mana play, and I get the Surveil here to dig for some spells. Crime Stopper Sprite, more than good enough. Hit for 5 here, out cold the turn after this. This is going to be really good. What kind of relevant 1 mana blue spell is there? They could make something like a 4/3 till end of turn? I don't remember. There's the weird mask thing. Makeshift Binding. Tragic. It exiles, and it gains life. So the race is really difficult now. We didn't get a clue token out of it. And they get a nice pocket of life to slow us down. Jam 6. Only exiles creatures. Cannot exile enchantments and give us our Makeshift Binding back. Or give us our Cold Case Cracker back by exiling their Makeshift Binding. That's really bad. That life gain is brutal. Double Makeshift Binding. I gotta go full aggro where I Makeshift Binding their Crime Stopper Sprite. Actually, no. I can flip up and tap their Crime Stopper Sprite and then Makeshift Binding a better creature that they play this turn. To be able to get rid of that as a blocker for this turn and then get rid of the better card forever. Okay, Vigilante is not really better. But this way, we also get to play around the counter unless you pay 2. Because if they have that and they got to counter the Makeshift Binding, that would have been really bad. Oh, that's a good draw. It's a good draw. If Makeshift Binding resolves, I'm targeting Vigilante and then drawing the card to send all in. If they try to counter it, I will pay the 2 and exile the Sprite instead. That's a good draw. Sick. They're down to 3. 1 flying blocker against 2 flying attackers. They would be dead if Makeshift Binding did not gain life as well. face down card. Sand. That's on board lethal, so I don't do anything until they do something. Return that. Okay, then I do bounce, or not bounce, but buff this. It's double trick. Okay, we trade into each other. They did have that weird 1 minute thing. Well, they're still dead to this next turn. And it's still better to play it face down. Yeah, they know exactly what it is, but it still lets me flip up and tap a blocker. Even if they play a flying blocker, they're dead. Has to be removal. Bounce spell works. Bounce spell does work. Buys them a turn here. Have the inspector kill the specialist. Good trade. Now even if they have removal, if it's sorcery speed removal, they have to gamble on which is which. GG from opponent. They do not have the way to deal with the flyer. And that's it. That's 4-0 for this deck. The flyers just being incredible. 4-0 heading into game number 5. Here we are for game number 5. Need a white source pretty badly. Need to draw any land to even play the Sprite as our first play. It's going to be a mulligan. Much better mana. We've got the incredible Vindicator as well. Definitely can't get rid of a land. I think I want multiple creatures. I have to get rid of No More Lies or Out Cold here. Get rid of the Out Cold. No More Lies, then Night Watch, then Vindicator is the curve out. We hope. Novice Inspector, turn 1 from our opponent. Now it's No More Lies, Night Watch, Watchdog. Whenever a detective enters, there's turn face up, put a ++1 counter on it. If they have 3 more detectives, they solve it. So all their detectives are a little bigger. I'm just going to cast this now. It's going to be hard to hold up the man in the future. We're trying to go 3-drop, 4-drop, and so on. Ah. Alright, if any rare might be able to beat Aurelia's Vindicator, it's one of the other best rares in the format. That is Cryptic Coat. Manifests the top card of their library as a face-down 2/2, and they can flip it up later if it's a creature for its mana cost, and whatever's equipped with this is +1/+0 and unblockable, so I'm going to 3/2 unblockable with Ward 2. That can keep coming back to their hand and coming back over and over and over again, and it's often an even better card than a 3/2. This exiles creatures specifically and not artifacts. So I'm hovering back and forth to try to hide the information that the one I was really trying to read was the one in the middle. But anyways, it only targets creatures, so the ward on the Cryptic Coat's going to be a big problem. I can flip this up if they block. Block with a Watchdog here, but they're probably going to crack the clue and then it's all unblockable anyway. Okay, let me do that. Bounce the courier seems fine. The trade is also fine. I'll take the trade. Take 3, go to 13. Wrench. Vigilance +1/+1, they can tap creatures. Another Ward 2 face, and wow, this unauthorized exit has been awkward. Because the ward on everything. Kind of forgot how much ward there is. Very annoying. Okay, even if I bounce Cryptic Coat, this card still has ward. It just naturally has ward. So our Angel's just not bouncing anything. Anyway. Still outrace them with flying and lifelink. And I can bounce my own card with unauthorized exit if they have removal. This still feels winning. Just not absurdly so, like you expect out of such a quality mythic. Mistway Spy, so they get a clue token this turn. I guess they get 3 clue tokens. Okay, 1. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage. So that would trigger 3 times if they hit us with 3 creatures. 2 mana is not enough to kill Vindicator. So they might be trying to buff the Mistway Spy up, in which case I have the unauthorized exit. Oh, they have the equip too. Yes, I can just bounce it right now. Actually, it might be better to bounce the Wrench. Like, they declare the block, then we bounce the Wrench. I get more damage by just bouncing the Spy immediately. But I permanently kill the Spy the other way. I have Burden of Proof as well. It's pretty absurd. So these are not detectives. I definitely need to keep that in mind. So this Burden of Proof is just for making their thing a 1/1. There's a detective. Yeah, this is not as good as I thought it was. I was really excited about buffing Vindicator, and then I checked, and I'm like, oh, you're not a detective, are you? Make one of their blockers a 1/1, so that's going to give them another flying blocker, and then they play the Wrench and try to equip again. Can bounce the flying token. Now I have a detective out of the Museum Night Watch. Actually, the Investigators is also Detective, so Burden of Proof has a lot of flexibility here. Projector Inspector, draw a card, discard a card. Looking for outs. Equip a wrench to surveillance monitor. If any of our creatures on the ground get in, then we win. Off with Burden of Proof. And now one of them does guaranteed. Case of the Gateway Express finds lethal. Off the top. Nasty. That is 4-0, I believe. Undefeated all the way to a positive record in this Murders at Karlov Manor quick draft here. Really, really nice return trip to MKM. Let's double check the win rate because I don't remember for sure. We're 5-0. Dang. All right. We would be in the money already if this were a premier draft. We're basically breaking even in quick draft. We're down 100 gems, but we're up 4 packs because we drafted out of 3 packs and we get 1 pack as a prize. So with each rare being about 20 gems worth of value, if we got 5 rares, then we're at the break-even point here. But a very positive record no matter what, which is kind of surprising to me. Like, yeah, we have the really, really powerful Mythic. We have some decent non-creature spells, but our really cheap creatures on the curve are quite mid outside of Inspector, which is great. And I think that's really the biggest flaw of the deck. I mean, we're a bit low on removal, and our cheap creatures are not very good on average. But I think that those are pretty significant flaws in this format. So the fact that it hasn't come back to haunt us really at all has been very, very nice. Sanctuary Wall, big booty. It's a little annoying. Probably not enough to makeshift binding that thing. Just a 0-4 wall. We can stun each other. A little weird to see that in Boros. Got the curve out here, which is nice. Missed a 3-drop, but a 1, a 2, a 4. The Inspector letting us use that clue token on turn 2 is great. So a 1-drop, sack a clue, play a 2-drop on turn 3, play a 4-drop on 4. Ooh, Case of the Gateway Express with a counterspell held up. Okay, I don't have a counterspell held up because it's ward 2. Why is ward the most annoying mechanic of all time? Well, second most. Hexproof is probably the most. If I case, attack all 3, that's pretty sick. But I don't kill anybody by casting the case, so it just doesn't work. I'm guessing they're just going to flip up the face down. Get a decent trade here. And we'll see. This is kind of the only play I have because of the ward. I mean, I could just not binding as well. Okay, tap stun the Watchdog, that's fine. If I lose Phantom, I'm less likely to attack with 3 in the future. The suspecting on reasonable doubt does target, so I can't suspect their blocker to make it unable to block because it has ward. Okay, big old 5 for it, fair enough. Beautiful, Investigator's mana while they're tapped out. Bounce the big thing, force the recast. We have a super big board for Case of the Gateway Express and Karlov Watchdog. This does require 5 to flip it up. So if they want it face up, they have to hard cast it now. But with that many cards in their hand, they're probably playing a smaller creature and playing that one face down this turn. Yep, Gearbane Orangutan, just 2/2. Pass the turn, 3 mana up. Well, that's almost definitely a spell, but Reasonable Doubt will counter anything but a 1-drop at this point. If it's Shock, that's sad. They can Shock Karlov Watchdog for 2 mana for only 1 mana. But if it's anything that costs 2 or more, we are golden here. Galvanize, sick, 2 mana. Sure, I'll get my 4/4 Menace. We are way, way far enough in the lead here to be able to afford not blocking with our 4/4. Yeah, and there's the concession from our opponent. We're 6-0, heading into the final battle completely undefeated on our first draft of the return trip to Murders at Karlov Manor. All right, here we are for the final boss. They're on the play, and they kept the 7 immediately. This is about the average hand from this deck, I think, in terms of early blocks. We have the 2 mana 2/1 here. If we draw into like another disguise card, we can go 2-drop into 3-drop into Out Cold or something to slow them down. I'm any land from playing Cold Case Cracker and Out Cold at the top of the curve. I'm going to keep this one. They are a red deck. Now I've got a Reasonable Doubt as well. If they don't have a creature out turn 2, I'm going to hold up Reasonable Doubt and then play Smuggler on 3. And then the other way around, if they did play a creature. Counter the face down. Just slow them down here, buy us time. It was a 4/3 flyer, fine target. Here's our face down. If we miss the land, we deduce. If we hit a land, we're playing one of these. Sure, shock the face down is a-okay. So we're both playing for a long game right now. Alright, deduce. We didn't hit a land. We did hit a plains off of deduce, which is great. Crack another land, but I'm already at the 4 mana I need to be really happy, so let's just play an Inspector. Get another clue. And have not really a threat, but a blocker around for the future. Ooh, full Jeskai, blue, white, and red from our opponents. I think I'm waiting till 6 mana, and then I'm going to bounce their Cold Case Cracker and play a 4-drop in the same turn. Let's just play our own for now. I don't think we want to trade when they have a bunch of open mana. But if they completely tap out, then I'm fine to attack in and off the trade on blocks. Okay, if they do this, I'll take the trade. If they just want to do this while they're tapped out, sure. We'll both get a clue here. These are really good out cold targets, though, so there's that to consider. But again, I'm just really happy to both get a clue. No combat trick to worry about. Still at 20 here. 1 mana from Hotshot Investigators. I have Unauthorized Exit even if I don't top deck a land off the clue, and I'm really digging with the 6-drop in hand now. So, you know, Magical Christmas Land, as we top deck the land, we play the Watchdog. But if not, again, we have the Unauthorized Exit for the Offender. Let's get a damage in here. Surveil right now. There it is. recast it, crack a clue. I'd be pretty happy with that as our opponent's turn. Face down card. They're going to play it face down instead, sure. If they're going to do that, I'm going to investigate my own Inspector, I think. Unless they've got a counterspell here off their blue sources. Double clue. Well, one clue now and another when I replay the Inspector again. Alright, make your move on Investigators, that's fine. They jam for 7. This will be our first hit of the game. It's a huge hit, but because we're at 20, we'll still be at 13, which is a really hardy life total for a long game. And this hand, again, is really good at playing the long game. 3 pieces of cards are already on board, plus 2 more in hand. Another face down. Okay, so they just poke for 2 this turn. Even better. Market Watch Phantom. I'll play towards a little bit of lifelink here then. So I can take a big swing next turn. Dog Walker, yep, wide board. Case of the Gateway Express, that's less fun. At least they're not attacking with 3 creatures yet. The wide board is really gross with Case of the Gateway Express. This thing's a big issue because now they have so many tokens out, it's going to be nearly impossible to stop them from attacking with 3 and solving it and making all these dogs 2/1s. But if I take the trade there and then out cold next turn, I can still delay that case from being solved. Out cold and draw a card, or out cold and have a 2/2 up. I'm not out cold and have a 2/2 up. Good lord. Alright, well. We may finally be losing one, but we've still got a Mythic Angel in here that can save us from this. But we're going to need to find her fast. Good thing I have a bunch of card draw to dig. Oh, you're late. You're really late. They've got too much mana for this to matter, really. Basically doesn't do anything. Draw a card every time somebody attacks with 3 or more creatures. If somebody gets to attack with 5, they also Lightning Helix us. Deal 3 to us and they gain 3. Pretty good. Well, no more lies is count unless they pay 3, and they've got 3 up. So, large threat remains. Draw another card and pray. Not it. Not it. Cold Case Cracker with a Burden of Proof is a 5/5 flying blocker. They get some pretty extreme damage in elsewhere, though. 5, 10, 11, 12 plus 2. 14. Yeah. Plus the Aurelia trigger. Yeah, I don't see a way out of this one here. They just flip up their Fender at large, get huge damage, and we go to like 1. Okay, 2 life, but still. That obviously can't resolve. I technically have enough blockers on board for their current board state, but if they just draw a shock or anything, it's dead. That's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. Can't quite kill the menace awkwardly. I definitely need to just kill something with it immediately while I can. For sure. Dead to double removal here? Do I play around double removal? Probably, because if there's no removal, Forensic Researcher just starts tapping the Braggart every turn. And then we're pretty safe to be getting hits in. That's pretty good. Draw 2 off the top. Makeshift Binding would be a phenomenal draw. Being able to gain a couple life while we deal with the threat. So Makeshift Binding and the Vindicator are the best draws. Trying to remember what else we have in the deck. Untap is not responding and telling me my deck list right now, which is wonderful. Alright, well, very, very funny quick bot drafts. Or quick draft bots. You gave our opponent double Aurelia. Ripperoni. That's wild. God dang it. I still have those 2 draws I listed that are incredible, but now I need them instantaneously. That is lands. Actually, no 3 drops. I have to pick up 4. Or 2 2s. Oh, I could have picked a 2 and a 1. Still dead to 1 removal spell because of the menace. That works too. Alright. Tried so hard and got so far. In the end, didn't even matter. Feels like a winnable matchup for like a best of 3, but not a winnable game in the end. 6-1 heading into game number 8. All right, here we are for the second try of our final boss, this time a mono white opener instead of a mono blue. I don't remember if that was last game we started mono blue, but one of the games we started with a solid mono blue hand. This one a solid mono white. Orzhov, Leering Onlooker starts things off. I don't mind binding that. They don't get any graveyard value out of it later. Get rid of the flyer so we can play our own flying game plan. Any land gets us the face down plus hold up these instants, which would be really good. Second counterspell makes me want to just start hitting for 3 in the sky every turn, not do anything else. It's counter unless they pay 2, save the counter unless they pay 3. I don't want to suspect anybody right now. Because being able to trade the Cold Case Cracker off on blocks is frequently relevant. And I don't know if I want to give this thing menace. Like, it could be like a 5-3 or something. That's a lot better if it's harder to block. Alright, really aggressive stuff here. Neighborhood Guardian plus Snarling Gorehound. That's some Murders at Karlov Manor right there. Well, we got rid of one counterspell, and now they need a real cheap one to hit our ward. I think we just hardcast this. They have to tap out to kill it even if they have a 3-mana removal spell. Tell me that that is not uncounterable. It is not. So they kill the Cold Case Cracker. And we investigate. But we're going to just gain 1,000,000 and hit for 1,000,000 every turn. And now I have counterspells up. Vindicator GG. Slimy Dual Leech, sure. I'm going to let anything other than removal spells resolve, because I just need to hit them 2 more times with Vindicator, and gaining 4 a turn makes that really easy to do. Looks like an out cold here at least. Now that they're tapped out. Okay. Extract the Confession. Did they collect evidence 6? They did. So make me sack a creature with the greatest power among creatures I control. That's bad, because I can't counter that because they have the 3 up. If I don't counter it, I have to sack a Vindicator. I can't even burden a proof my Inspector to make it a 3/3. I have to unauthorized exit Vindicator and sack Inspector. Yeah. They gain them a life too, so I don't have a one-shot kill. I barely have a one-shot kill if I play this flyer and the face-down Vindicator. Take everything, crack back for 5 in the sky is the plan. Vigilante? If this ain't lethal, that's game. And that ain't lethal. Sick. There's the concession from our opponent. That is 7-1. One loss in there just to even it out a little bit, but a pretty commanding run there, a pretty commanding lead on that whole draft. Huge trophy run from the return to Murders at Karlov Manor in the quick draft queues. A lot of that was definitely the power of Aurelia's Vindicator. We won every game that we drew that, of course, but did not draw it in every single game. Drew it quite a bit. Even in the games without it, just a nice, consistent, tempo-based aggro strategy does play really nice in the set. All the flying threats, ways to tap down our opponent's creatures, bounce their creatures, and slow them down just long enough to get the flying damage we need to kill them, played out very, very well today for the 7-1 run. Yeah, big fan of the blue-white Detectives archetype. This was my favorite archetype in this set. I just had the most fun with it. The most interesting and the more aggressive archetypes. The strongest was definitely Boros. Boros tokeny go-wide stuff was really strong. Orzhov was pretty fun. Make a bunch of small creatures, trigger off all the power 2 or less stuff like our opponent was doing there. But blue-white tempo aggro-y stuff was my favorite. Blue-red as well. Blue-red artifacts is pretty cool. So nice to be able to play one of my favorite archetypes and to be able to get a 7-win run with it thanks to one of the strongest rares in the entire set. That is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below, and if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.